ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकाया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपगदामायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। जय श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य प्रभुनित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवश्री गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome everybody. Thank you for showing up. We were just in Mayapur together a few months ago, having lunch, and now we're here in Bucharest, Romania. So this is my first visit here. If I say something stupid, you have to forgive me, okay? I'm still getting used to. I feel very at home. I was a sports guy, and I had 6 library cards because you could only take out a certain amount of books from each library. And now here, I'm in a library inside a sports complex. So I feel like I'm right at home, right? This is the perfect mix, right? It's kind of a fusion, but it's an interesting scenario. When I tell people we have this place here in Sala Polivalentă, they say, in Sala Polivalentă? I say, yeah, go and check it out. And who is here for the first time? Okay, me too. I know how you feel, you know. But they're nice people, you know. Romanians are nice people. Have you noticed? They're really nice people. I can tell you because I get around a little bit. It's part of my work. So I'll tell you a few stories, and then we see whether, you know, we learn something from them. And maybe you have a few questions. So I just came from Iceland. It was already pretty icy. It was pretty cold there, almost freezing. So what I was doing there, I was visiting a friend of mine who is the head of the ICU of the emergency unit at the main hospital in Reykjavik. So he took me to a hot spring, and we had a little session in the hot spring, which is usually what you do, you know, when you're in Iceland. If ever you go there, don't miss out on it. He was telling me that he has seen 70,000 patients in the last 20 years. And with all the scenarios that transpire, he said everybody has the same condition, that people are very scared, and the people who are not injured, but the relatives, are even more scared than the people who are injured. And he said it's always because of the same reason, that people don't know who they are, and they think that their body, and if something goes wrong in the body, it's like the end of the world. Have you ever noticed when something doesn't work well with your body, that you think like it's the end of the world? Right? That paranoia comes up. Have you also noticed how all of a sudden everyone is a doctor when you get sick? That's also funny, right? Everybody starts giving you health advice and says, do this, don't do that, you know, this will make you better. And oftentimes a lot of conflicting ideas. So, starting out, the Bhagavad Gita, which is the main text of the Vedic wisdom, Veda means knowledge or wisdom from Sanskrit, from the ancient tradition from the East. The Bhagavad Gita tells us that what is this body? How does this body work? And what's the main components in this body? Are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the main elements, the gross elements that we can see, but then there is also the mind. Have you heard of the mind? Do you have a mind? Are you mindful or mindless? So, and that is something that is very often overlooked, not very well understood, that above the gross physical body, there's the mind. And we'll speak a little bit about the mind today. I was in Miami, Florida, in front of a pharmacy. And there was a middle-aged lady, and she was yelling at her phone. Have you ever seen people yelling at their phone? They don't do this here in Bucharest, right? No? Have you ever yelled at your phone? I always think it's funny when I see somebody yelling at a phone. I always think like, what has this phone done to deserve, to be yelled at? And what is the other person thinking on the other side of the line, They put the phone or they put silent mode or, so. And I had two options. Option A, now we're going to have a little vote here. You do votes here? Is Romania still a democracy? Well, you never know. I travel fast. I just came from Central America and the Caribbean, and, it changes all the time. It goes from right to left to totalitarianism and then back to democracy, and you never know who's in charge. But, okay, option A, avoid her. Option B, talk to her. Okay, who would opt for option A, avoid her? Option B, talk to her. Option C, abstain. Now, of course I talk to her. I'm a hockey player. I love confrontation. So I went up to her and I said, right now, are you mindless or mindful? The mind, is it your best friend or your worst enemy? She looked at me. She said, I'm so angry, I could scream and yell at the whole world. But keep talking, it's working. So we had a little heart-to-heart, and I shared a few of the ideas that I picked up from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Vedic wisdom. And at the end, I shared with the lady that, most people and most situations in this world are outside of our control. Have you noticed? Like you got here and you see all the police and all the people out there and you think like, what's going on here? Right? Riot police, am I in the right place? Or, the mind reacts. It's just it does something to you, right? But the way we respond to people and situations, that is always under our control. That is under our control. So, and she looked at me. She started smiling. She said, I get it. I understand what you're trying to tell me. Okay, I'm going to go home now and read these books. So what started out to be a very stressful, a very tense situation ended on a happy note. So in the hierarchy of our body, something goes wrong with the body, we go to the doctor, we get some medicine, yet what if something goes wrong with the mind? What if something goes wrong with the mind? I ask people on the street all the time, meditation or medication? Like, what's your practice? What do you do? And a lot of the youth, they say medication. And I ask them, well, what do you take? And they say, Ritalin, Demerol, Adderall, this, Valium. I say, hey, slow down, kid. You're 18, cool down. Don't go so fast, it's a long life. Everyone in this world is an addict. The question is, what am I addicted to? What is it that I can't live without? I was in Honduras, Central America. You heard of Honduras? It's not a brand of bananas. It's a country. Sometimes people think Costa Rica, Honduras, Nicaragua. No, these are countries. So, and as I was giving a school program, I tried to check the clock because there are no clocks. Here we got one, so we're lucky. I picked up my phone, and it was a blue screen and some green lines on it. And I knew that my phone had died. When you realize that it's over, that's it. This is the end, my friend. And for the next 8 days, I didn't have a phone. Now, I don't have a tablet or a computer. Everything is on my phone. But I managed to travel 3 countries and do programs, and still, I'm still alive, even without my phone. For 8 days. You can take note, but lesson number 1, renegotiate my relationship with technology. You know, most of these books here were written by people from before the web. Can you imagine? From before the web. People, they had a life. They knew stuff, you know? And they wrote books and dramas and theater, and they built, you know, they built amazing buildings. If you look around in your wonderful city, there's a lot of stuff that happened before the internet. So a little tip, leave the phone on airplane mode if you don't necessarily need it. You know that little airplane, that little avion? Have you ever used it? Why don't you use it every day? As soon as your working day is over, like you don't have to be on call, you don't have to answer to anything, just press that button. And all of a sudden, it's very quiet. Like no one's going to bother you. You got your life back. You can do whatever you want. You can sing and dance. You can go and walk. You can meditate. You can do whatever you please. You read books. Nothing's going to disturb you. And then in the morning, do you know that 70% of the people on this planet check their messages in bed before getting out of bed, before even going to the bathroom? I don't want to know if you're part of the 70 or 30, but I'm just telling you, don't do this to you. Because it has not such a great impact on our health and our well-being. So, no messages before breakfast. Can you do that? Thank you for your great audience participation. I know this is not California. You know, in California they go, yeah, we can do this. You know, and here they're like, is this guy for real? Is this guy telling me not to use my phone at 5 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, that's what this guy's going to tell you. Because if you want a happy life, renegotiate your relationship with technology. These things are really useful. They can do fun stuff, but you have to use them in the proper way. Otherwise, if you become a slave to technology, and it's like, I need my phone now, then something went wrong here, okay? The phone is a tool. It's supposed to serve my purpose, not that I'm the servant and I'm supposed to serve the phone. Have you ever had that kind of dilemma, that kind of love-hate relationship, codependence, or whatever you want to call it? So, and then feel free to unsubscribe. If you feel that stuff is getting too abrasive, too noisy, too crazy, just unsubscribe. Just feel free to detach. All right, so in the hierarchy of the body, we got the gross elements, then we got the subtle elements, there's the mind. And then, did you ever have issues with the mind? Like, for instance, don't do this. Check your messages before you go to sleep. Have you ever done that? And you get something that was really not that great, really not that nice, and you couldn't fall asleep. Has this ever happened to you? Or is it just me? Hey, thank you. We got a good audience here. Huh? Of course, if you're intelligent, you don't do this, because before you go into bed, you don't check your messages because you want to go to bed. You don't want to think about how to solve all the problems of the world and all the stuff you have to do and what you forgot to do and you know, all that, because otherwise you can't sleep. So, you can't solve a problem on the level of the problem. You need help from a higher dimension. So, you can control this physical body with the mind. Like I'm telling my mind is telling the body, okay, lift this hand. And then the hand goes up. But I am telling, so the mind is making the arrangement. The mind is like the sense within. But what if the mind doesn't work? What if the mind doesn't correspond? The mind has conflicting ideas, because maybe there is information overload. There's too many possible options, and it's not clear which way to go. Have you ever had that scenario? Too many possibilities, you don't know where you're going. What to do then? Can't solve it with the mind. Need a little more info. So then this is the job of the intelligence. In the hierarchy, you have the physical body, you have the mind, then you have the intelligence, which is higher than the mind. You can control the physical body, the mind. You can control the mind, not with the mind, but with the intelligence. But for that, our intelligence has to be trained. That means we have to learn how to think. I work a lot with students because it's part of what I do. I'm a counselor, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer. So I ask students, so you learn how to read, you learn how to write, you learn how to count. But did they teach you how to think? Thinking doesn't mean memorizing data and spitting it out for the exam. Thinking means that if somebody were to ask you, why are you doing this? Like I was just coaching a veteran from Germany who was one of the chiefs of the army, and the commander of the German army was having a meeting, and it was telling them that we got to go to Afghanistan. And he asked him the very plausible question, before he's going to go there and deploy all the troops, he asked him, why? And the chief of the German army, he told him, you will go there very well equipped and very well prepared. And he said, excuse me, sir, I asked you why, not how. I asked you why. And he didn't give him an answer. So he quit. He said, it's against my conscience. I can't operate in this scenario. So intelligence is defined by the ability to ask meaningful questions, like why? Why am I here? What's the purpose of the human form of life? What's happening? Not just how much is, the lei to the dollar, or, how long does it take me to get to the bus stop? But the real existential questions of life, we call them the hard questions or the big questions. So you do your own soul searching, you write down your big questions, and then you start doing your own research. And of course, there's different ways of how to do research. You can do it empirically. Have you ever met people who were graduates from the University of YouTube? You have seen people? There's also University of TikTok and the University of Facebook. And they click on some stuff. And then because they've done that for many, many nights, then they think, now I'm educated, right? Now I know stuff because I watched some videos, right? But that's not what we mean by education. Not even going to school and getting diplomas. Because that's the empiric way. And unfortunately, we humans were flawed with 4 defects. Defect number 1, we have imperfect senses. We don't know who's playing. We don't know what game they're playing. We know there's some sport thing going on down there, but it's kind of obscure. Saw some people kicking ball around, but I don't really know. So I'm limited by my perception. I can't really see what's going on in the next room. Flaw number 2, sometimes I'm under illusion. Like I travel a lot. Sometimes I wake up, I don't know where I am. Like I traveled from Calcutta to Mumbai, to London Heathrow, to Dallas Fort Worth, to Santiago de Chile, to Punta Arenas, which is Patagonia, the end of the world, or the beginning of the world, however you want to look at it. It was a 2-day straight trip. And then you go to immigration, and the guy asks you, where are you coming from? And you go, that is a very good question. So in case you don't know an answer, tell the guy, that is a very good question. It will buy you a few seconds, so you can retrack your steps to what you were about to say, because you have the answer. It's just not there on your tongue, okay? So, imperfect senses, sometimes under illusion. What else have we got? Sometimes I've seen people, even here in Bucharest, they park their cars where they're not supposed to park them. Do you guys ever do that? Never, right? Never. Never, right? Never. In some countries, you know, like you take public transport, and when the ticket guy comes, you just look the other way and you pretend you've been on the bus forever, right? Like you own this thing, you know? So he leaves you be. The tendency to cheat is a possibility, right? In humans, it is a possibility. That's why there's so many police guys there in front, you know, checking tickets and making sure people don't riot and start throwing stuff around. And what was the fourth one? Imperfect senses, under illusion, tendency to cheat. There's one more. Oh, commit mistakes. But not here, right? Have you ever made mistakes in your life? Has this ever happened to you? Oh, all right, okay. Thank you for your honesty. All right. So, and that's why the empiric process of trying to ascertain truth by microscopes, telescopes, supercomputers is flawed with these 4 defects, because all these machines are made by people who are flawed with these 4 defects. So that means if you want the truth, if you want substantial knowledge, not knowledge that changes every 6 months or every 2 years, but they're too lazy to publish new textbooks, you know. So right now, you're learning stuff that's outdated, 10 years outdated. That's what you learn in school. But you need information which comes from a higher source, which is revealed knowledge. That's why we have the Vedas, the Vedic wisdom that is revealed knowledge that is being handed down through an unbroken chain of teachers that dates all the way back to Krishna, to the one who actually created this entire wonderful arrangement. So that's just for epistemology and hermeneutics. That's just to get the basics out of the way. Now, how to deal with the mind? The mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And we have all experienced our own love-hate relationship with the mind. Now, when Krishna told Arjuna a little bit about the mind and how to deal with the mind, Arjuna said, sorry, I can't do this. You know, I'm a fighter. I'm a passionate guy, you know. Like, I can't do this. It's not possible for me. I think it's harder to control the wind than to control the mind. Krishna said, no, you can do it. You can do it. You got this. How can you do it? By regular practice. If you actually have a practice, something that you do regularly, like every day, your mind will get to like it and will start to fall into track. Have you noticed, if you have a ritual, something that you do every day, that it kind of grows on you and you like to do it, and it's just your practice. Practice is what happens when no one is watching. That's your practice. Like checking your messages in bed or checking your messages after breakfast. That's your practice, right? Now, as we have learned certain practices that may not be so nice, we can also learn practices that are a little better, right? So feel free to upgrade your practices. Do you upgrade your apps? Anyone? Yeah? Good boys, good girls. Huh? We all have to, like, comply with our technology providers. So we upgrade our apps, but do we upgrade our habits? Do we upgrade our goals? Do we upgrade our mindset? Or do we think, no, that's okay. That's the way it is. I'm good. I'm going to keep it that way for this lifetime. Well, good may not be good enough tomorrow. And for that, it's important to have an open mind and to be willing to listen from the right source. I was in San Francisco because my spiritual teacher asked me in 2015 in New York to open a place like this in San Francisco. And I asked him, why? Because that's me. I have godbrothers who only have 3 words, yes, yes, and yes. They called yes men. Have you heard of yes men? But my guru always says, when he asks me, oh, how was the program, or how was the recording, or he did an audio book, and we listened to it in Washington, D.C. as we were driving to a program. And he asked me, how is it? And I said, nice. He said, I don't have you here to be a yes man. Okay, how was it? And I said, you really want to hear? You may not like it. Okay, I can tell you. So we had a nice discussion. So I asked why. he said, because San Francisco is an important city. You know, a lot of this technology stuff that we are using every day, it comes out of San Francisco, hardware and software. And it was the second center after New York. San Francisco was the second center. And we didn't have anything there for the last 35 years. And he said, you will learn patience. And I said, you're joking, right? Patience? Me? I mean, what's the big deal? You go to a city, you look at the listings, you sign a lease, and voila, there is your center, right? And now it's 2024, 9 years later. And I know how Radha Govinda Prabhu and his good wife feel, because it's like from the idea to actually making it happen, to actually making it successful, to actually making it sustainable, to actually handing it over to the next generation, it's a major deal. It's a major job. So anyway, fast forward, it's 2024, I'm here with a bunch of amazing people in Bucharest, Romania. It's the first time that I visit this country because it was just never on the list. There was just never a reason to. Till over lunch, you know, my friend Shrisha, who's looking after my place in India, asked me, why don't you go to Moldavia, which is his home country, and also Romania? And I said, sure, and I'll go to Bulgaria right after that. So I'm here, and I'm really glad I did, because what people know in the world about Romania is not really what Romania is, you know. Just to put it simple, in basic terms. Similar thing is with Iran. Have you heard of Iran? Persia? Do you know that Persia was one of the biggest empires, highest culture, very refined in music, art, trade, religion, and everything? And now people just think it's a bunch of fanatics who throw bombs, right? So don't judge a book by its cover, okay? Now, you may not have read all these. By the way, they all look pretty generic, right? They all look pretty much like they're the same. So you may have all the books in the world, but if you haven't read them, you might as well be illiterate, right? So back to San Francisco. I was in San Francisco on Market and Powell, which is where the cable car starts. Have you heard of the cable car? It's like a tram, but they have a cable under the earth and they pull it, you know, up the hill, because there's a lot of hills, you know. You never watch movies, right? You never seen the car chases in San Francisco and they jump over those hills? Like, you know, that's San Francisco. So, and I approached a man and I showed him the book, and he pointed at the image of Srila Prabhupada, who we have here, the founder, and he said, I met the man, I met him. And I said, I don't think so, you know, I don't think so, because he passed away in 1977. He said, I'm from New York. I was there in 1966 in the Lower East Side. I walked into the place and they said, yeah, he's upstairs. You can go see him. So he said, I walked upstairs and the man, he was sitting there on a low table, on the floor, on a cushion. And I sat, you know, just in front of him. And he said, it was perfect. It was perfect. He didn't say anything. And I didn't say anything. Because he knew that I knew that he knew. Now that's San Francisco, okay? If you remember the 60s, you were not there. Because those who were there, they don't remember a thing, because they took too much LSD and all that kind of stuff. So, and he said after 40 minutes of sitting there, he was writing something on the desk, and I just sat there. Because he knew that I knew that he knew. After 40 minutes, somebody gave me some fruit and walked me out. And he said it was perfect. It took him 50 years before he could hear Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada, he saw that this person has too much noise in his head, you know, fighting his own demons, doesn't have a question, doesn't have something he wants to talk about, so let him just be. But after 50 years, I met him, and I gave him a small book, Chant and Be Happy. And ceremoniously, like a good old hippie, he gave me $1, you know, 5 lei, and he took his book. And maybe now he can hear. So sometimes we're surrounded by books, we're surrounded by people, but we can't hear because there's too much noise in our head. Has this ever happened to you? Or is it just me? Huh? Sometimes people ask you, what was the class about? What did you read today? Just noise, too much noise. So, how to reduce all this mind talk? There's a practice called mantra meditation. We just did it a while ago, that we chant these sacred mantras. And mantra has two components. Man means manas, or mind, and tra means try to, or to liberate. To liberate the mind from whatever the mind is attached to. Have you noticed how the mind can get attached to things? You think like, oh yeah, this looks nice, I need to have it. Do you ever do window shopping? No, never, right? No. Only looking, no buying, okay? Right, and then you start touching it and you feel like, oh yeah, this is nice, you know, I'd need one of these, you know. But it's bigger than my carry-on luggage, you know, so, you know, I was already thinking maybe I can, you know. No, but the mind has a way of how to get attached to things just by association. Dhyayato visaya pungsang sangaste shubhajayate sangat sanjayate kama kama karodo bijayate. I want this, I need this, I deserve this. In fact, I can't live without this. And then what? You're telling me I can't have it? I can't take this? Oh, that's not nice. Oh, I'm a little upset. Oh, I'm a little angry now. Huh? So these scenarios are playing out in the mind, but mantra meditation, the mantra, can help us to detach. As Krishna was telling Arjuna, there's two ways how you can control the mind. Abhyasena vairagyena. Abhyas is regular practice. So you practice like chanting mantras, like reading books that give you positive information, that explain things how they are. And then you can understand, yeah, this is a microphone. Yeah, it's okay, you know, it works, but I don't really need a microphone because wherever I go, either there is one or there's none. I can communicate. I'm not dependent on this. My life is fine. I don't need a third car, or I don't need the shirt in each and every color, you know. Has this ever happened to you? You think you got nothing to wear? No, of course not, you're right? If you're a guy, you got a pair of pants and you got two shirts. And what more do you need, right? That's why fashion industry doesn't waste time with you. They make handbags and shoes and shirts and other stuff, you know, for people, ladies, who can appreciate that, right? Because guys mostly can't. It's just wasted on them. So, practice. Regular practice. Practice is what happens when no one is watching. Feel free to pick up a few new practices. Like singing and dancing. Are you singing and dancing every day? Remember when you were a kid and you're just running around naked around your backyard and screaming and yelling your head off and driving everyone crazy? But you were hilariously happy. Remember? It's not so long ago, right? You didn't do that here, right? No. If you didn't sing and dance, you had a miserable childhood. So go sing and dance a little bit, all right? But then we go to school and we become idiots. And then we go to university and then they give you a diploma that says, now you're a certified idiot. By the way, you owe us quarter of a million euros. So please pay us back with interest. And now you expect these kids to be good doctors, good lawyers, good bankers, good teachers? No, of course not. They're in debt. So maybe there is a different way of how to do this. It's called a wisdom culture, where people actually invest into education because it's what we value. It's how we do things. So invest into yourself. Right now, you are your biggest asset. Or you could be your own biggest liability. It can go both ways. Do you understand the difference between an asset and a liability? Are you financially literate? These are not theoretical questions. A lot of people are not. That's why there is casinos and the lottery. You know, the lottery is the tax for the stupid people. Because if you don't know the probability, if you don't know the odds, you think that I'm going to win, I'm going to get ahead. No, you won't. Sorry. The game doesn't work that way. This week, again, I met a guy. He's a math guy. He works in casino, online gambling, probability, setting up the whole shop. Because the bank, the casino, always wins. You got it? You got that, right? The casino always wins. So don't waste your money on that. Okay, good habits. Singing and dancing every day. Because that's what we're supposed to be doing. If you're not really feeling the love, as they say in California, if you're not really having a good time, then what's going to happen is that the kids are going to look at you and they're going to say, wow, if I'm listening to this guy, I'm going to end up like that guy. And that's maybe not what I want to. And they will detach. Emotionally, they will detach. And okay, if they're your kids, all right, you can say they're forced to stick it out with you. But the moment they can escape, they'll escape. But if they feel this person is actually a nice person, this person actually has good qualities, then the only question they have is, how can I be like you? Like my friend here, Shyamasundar, he's been driving me around, he's been feeding me, he's been giving me good information. So it's been a real breeze, it's been a real joy to be around him. So you know, I'm thinking in my mind, how can I be a little bit more like Shyamasundar? Because that's what you do, right? If you like someone, you think like, wow, how could I become a little bit like that person? That's how we learn. You see, a culture is preserved not through legislation. It's not through laws and policing and making rules, but through role models by people who we can feel like, yeah, I want to emulate. This is my hero. Did you have heroes when you were a kid? Music stars, sports stars? Did you put poster up in your living room, in your bedroom? Did you do that? Okay. Hey, these are normal people. Good, good. Just checking, just checking. So, and then vairagya, now, okay, you have your practice, and then you have detachment. And detachment comes from understanding philosophically that, who am I? You see, there's two things. There's identity and identification. Like you were to go out there into the street and ask people, who are you? They would tell you their nationality, they would tell you their gender, they would tell you their job, they would tell you their economic status, their political views, their sports team. They would tell you all that stuff, right? And they think that's me. No, that's not you. You ever met people running around with football T-shirts on? In the city? Friday night? Are they sports people? No. They're borrachos. They're guys who go to drink, right? They're not sports people. They just put on the shirt. So it's not about externals. That's identification. Now you can change all these. I'm a fourth generation Italian immigrant to Switzerland on my father's side. On my mom's side, I'm Swiss and German. And I'm a first generation immigrant to California. So you can change your nationality, you can change your gender, you can change your economic status, your political views, your sports views. All that stuff, these are variables. These are just labels, just tags. But they can change at any moment with a little or a lot of effort. But identity never changes. This is who I am. So who am I? I say my head, my hand, my arm, my leg. So who is the I? This is my body. So who is the possessor? Who is the me? That's the soul. Now some people, no, the mind, right? I'm the mind. Well, did you ever have a talk with your mind? I hope so. Now, have you noticed how distinct there is a difference between you and the mind? Have you noticed? Because I'm not talking to myself. I'm not that crazy, okay? A little, but not that crazy, okay? So you have you, the soul, and then you have the mind. And then you have the intelligence, which is a repository of all the information that you've acquired, and you do your probability theory, you do the triage, you see, okay, what's a good option, how should we move forward? So, important, Don't get stuck with identification, but stay on identity. Stay in the heart. Stay with yourself. Stay true to your own purpose. And what is that? What is the purpose of the human form of life? It is self-realization. Because if I realize myself, naturally I'll also realize God. I'll also realize the meaning and purpose of the universe. I'll also realize what is my calling. But if I don't, then I make that little crucial mistake in my mathematical calculation. Remember, I don't want to put anybody into misery, but remember exam time? The teacher comes and hands out blank pieces of paper, and you go like, man, no, there's an exam. Gee, wow, I forgot. Huh? Has this ever happened to you? Yeah, right? And then you got to do math, right? You have these long calculations, and you're just too speedy, and you make a small mistake right in the beginning of your calculation. It's not going to look good at the end. I guarantee you that. So in a similar way, if I think that I'm my nationality, that I'm my gender, that I'm my job, that I'm my economic status, which I'm actually not. These are just circumstantial. These are just situations that I'm in right now. Then then all my assumptions, all my planning, all my striving, all my struggling will be based on that wrong premise. And that means it will be faulty. It won't really hold up. I was in Guanajuato, Mexico. And I was in the town square, and there was a very aristocratic gentleman with a three-piece suit. You know what a three-piece suit is, right? Because you're, culture people, conservative dressing. And he had a nice gold rings, a pocket watch, very beautifully manicured hair, and he had a handlebar mustache. You know what that is? Like this. Salvador Dali, And before I could say one word, water break. Before I could say one word, he just looked at me and said, "What you're trying to do here?" And I was a little shocked, because that's not what I expected. And my mind went blank, and I didn't know what to say. So what do you say when you don't know what to say? Have you ever been in a situation like that? You can say, "This is a very good question," but that buys you a few seconds. In those seconds you say, "Krishna, I need a miracle right now." I can't possibly say anything that will impress this person. This person looks like a judge or a lawyer or a government official or some industrialist, but, very accomplished person. I can't say anything that will really impress this person. So I say my little prayer and I open my mouth and I said, "I'm trying to develop introspection and humility through selfless service." So he looked at me. Introspection and humility. Through selfless service. Introspection and humility through selfless service. He said it twice. He said, "Okay, how much is it? How much is it?" Now I could not reach this person. There was no way. There's nothing I can say or do to impress this man. But Krishna, God, he can do the miracle. I can't, but I can be there and witness it and appreciate it. I was in Rishikesh in the Himalayas, the self-proclaimed Mecca or capital of the yogis. And I used to bring a bunch of friends up there. We used to go there in group and just sing and dance in the streets. And it's really fun because people are so warm, so welcoming, and even though we cause traffic jams, people just jump in and get off their bikes and scooters and start dancing with us. It was just such a riot. Then I walked up to a middle-aged man, and I showed him the Bhagavad Gita, which is the main Vedic text. And he told me, I'm a yoga teacher from Ukraine. I know all this. And I realized by his demeanor that if I say one more word, it's game over. You know that situation? When you say one more word and it's game over, what do? You just have to zip it. It's really hard for a guy like me because I'm kind of a talker, you know, as you may have noticed. So I can't say a word because I know if I say something more, he just gonna walk away. But I know he's a yoga teacher. He's holding the book. He's looking through it. So he's not like hostile or aggressive. He's just a little proud. So I think he's a teacher. He's got students. He needs to get this book, you know. This will really help him in his work, in his life. But I can't reach him. So what do? I say a little prayer. Say, Krishna, if I've ever been a good boy, if I've ever done anything good, if I ever chanted your name, please take all those blessings and give it to this fellow, because he needs it right now. After about 5 or 7 seconds of complete silence, he's going through the book. He looks up and he looks at me and he says, I feel love coming from your heart. How much is the book? Have you ever had people that you wanted to reach, but you could not reach them? There's a way how to reach them. You connect with Krishna, the Lord, divinity in the heart, in your heart. And it's the same Lord that is in the heart of all living entities. And you will reach that person. That message will be delivered. Sometimes you can't get closure. Sometimes people are somewhere else, or they're in their mind somewhere else, or they're just not ready to deal with you. But you can get closure by dealing with divinity in your own heart, and that communication will actually happen. So we talked a little bit about the hierarchy of the body. Now we almost forgot, on top of the whole thing, okay, you got the gross body, you got the subtle body, there is the mind, the intelligence, and then comes the false ego, which is your false perception of self, that you just identify with whatever is in your surrounding. We talked a little bit about that, right? And then there is the real I, the soul, the eternal soul. And Krishna says about the I, about the living entity, that actually you're amazing. The soul is amazing. He said it 3 times in the same verse in the Gita. Did you know that you're amazing? I meet kids all the time who are like, you know, I've been scrolling through the galaxy and I see everyone is living a perfect life and my life is really substandard. So I'm depressed. In fact, I'm suicidal and I'm thinking to kill myself. And there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people like that who feel crushed by this whole pressure of having to perform, having to try to be someone or be something or live up to someone else's expectation. Remember, we were born perfect, singing, dancing, screaming our heads off. Remember? It wasn't so long ago, right? So now, the soul is eternal because energy can be transformed, but it can't be destroyed. Laws of physics, right? You remember that. You don't have to be a PhD. Basic stuff. I exist. I'm here. I'm not delusional. Huh? I always love it. I book a flight, and the computer asks me, are you human? I thought, there's some funny programmers out there. There's some funny coders there in San Francisco, you know. Like, you know, let's have some fun here. Okay, click on some motorbikes. Okay, click on some bridges or on some buses. Are you human? That's funny. AI is asking me if I'm human. That's really funny. Do I exist? Well, formerly there was a saying that if a tree fell in the forest and no one was there to hear it, it didn't happen. You heard that before? We're not going to discuss that scenario. Okay, that's a different class. Today, the presumption is if it wasn't on social media, it didn't happen. Have you heard that? It wasn't on social media. It didn't happen. Well, I can tell you something. I got up this morning, and I took my shower. I did my yoga. I did my meditation. I chanted. It did happen. And it was not on social media. So our sense of self, our sense of identity cannot be dependent on transient, on external things. Otherwise, it will compromise our life. So this information is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says you're eternal. We're actually wise. We're actually intelligent. Have you noticed how living entities are intelligent? From the Airbnb, the place where I'm staying, I look down. There's a bar down there, and it is a big, big, big dog and a little dog. And they know how to bark and to get the attention of the owner of the bar to get food. They know how to do this, and they do it all night. And then in the day, they sleep. They're like the people who go to the bar. They have the same schedule. When I get up, they go to sleep. It's amazing. They didn't go to school. They didn't get a degree. But they got it all figured out, when to do what. Have you noticed, have you gone to the forest or to the mountain? Have you seen how everything's perfect in nature? Like stuff is in the right place. You really see that everything is going well. So, we're eternal, we're wise, and we're actually blissful. We're actually happy. We should actually be happy. That is our inherent nature. And anything else is just facade. It's just stuff that's being thrown at us that we identify temporarily, but it eventually has to come off. So this chanting process helps us get rid of our fears. There's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says, Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati samak sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. That, if you want to know whether you made any advancement in life, check, am I still hankering and lamenting? Am I still wanting stuff? And am I still lamenting about stuff and fearful of stuff? That's an indicator to know, am I going somewhere? Because if I'm actually residing in my heart, I would remember, I'm eternal, I'm wise, and I'm blissful. That means no one can touch me. That means, basically speaking, you're a superhero. Would you like to be a superhero? Thank you for your great audience participation. 3 people said yes. Now, of course, in California, they would say, yeah, we want to be superheroes, right? But here they're like, yeah, we're not that superficial, right? We're not that exuberant, right? But everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to be wise. And everybody wants to have a permanent situation where they feel like, yeah, this is stable. I can do this. So it is possible to achieve that situation, but not on an external level, because this world is under the influence of time. And I'm going to close with this and open up for questions. And the influence of time is like a big wheel. It's called the Kala Chakra, the wheel of time. And that wheel is crushing everything in its way. There's only one peaceful place. Where's that? In the eye of the storm, in the hub. If you actually are centered, if you're connected to the center of existence, which is God, or Krishna, which means the all-attractive, then nothing can touch you. Because if you're centered, everything is turning and crushing, but you're in the center, and you're fine. You don't even notice that there is a storm. It's pretty amazing, right? Like when we're going to walk out of here, the whole sports stuff is going to be over. It's just going to be quiet. Pretty amazing, right? And except the smell of popcorn, you wouldn't even notice that something happened out there. So feel free to unsubscribe from things, habits, people that wear you down, stuff that slows you down, and feel free to acquire some new habits that will actually inspire you to be your better self and to be part of the solution. Because otherwise, naturally, we'll be part of the problem. So it's very exciting to see that there is such a diverse community here in Romania. And I met some amazing people this week because we've been out every day doing workshops and meeting people here and there. And it's been exciting. I've really been very, very inspired to see what you're all doing and the the kind of caliber of people that I've met, it was just impressive. So I'm thankful for Radha Govinda Prabhu to invite me, and Shrisha to lovingly coerce me to go. and yeah, I wish you all the best on your journey. We have some time for questions, comments, or reflections. Not all at once, but anything that stood out or anything that was unclear or anything that you wanted to know, now is a good time to ask.
Thank you very much for this amazing lecture. It was absolutely inspiring. I have a question regarding the fact that I'm in such a point in my life that at least I have the illusion that I'm taking care of a lot of people, be it my family, my friends, and almost constantly my phone is buzzing. Actually, I'm exactly in that point of being grinded to insanity by technology. And over the course of years, I tried to kind of limit it. And when I tried to do that, people were shouting at me, and I got into more trouble that I closed my phones. So my question is, how can I approach this, having such a agitated life at this moment in my life? Thank you.
Well, thanks for your honesty. We go through different phases in life, as you said, and right now you're in a very intense phase because you have family, you have dependents, you have people that you're accountable to, as I hear you right, and you're good at what you do. So Arjuna was in a similar scenario, and he thought, let me be a nice guy and go to the forest and just chill, you know. But Krishna told him, no, you got to be you. You have to fight your fight and use your talent and use your profession and use your trained mind to do what you got to do, but do it in a mood of service. Instead of thinking that I am the owner, I'm the possessor, I'm the controller, and I'm the enjoyer of this activity, ask yourself the question every morning before you get out of the door, how can I be of service? You can write that down on the screen of your mind. If ever you get into anxiety and think like, oh, how can I score? How can I gain victory or achieve my purpose? Why not ask yourself? Why not ask myself, how can I be of service? Have you noticed if you ask that question, how can I be of service? How a whole new world of opportunities opens up. I've done 30 world tours in 40 years, not because I had the means, but because people wanted me to help them to do their service better. If you want to use your talent for service, you will always be appreciated. You'll always be welcomed. I'm not going to say it's going to be peaceful. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. I'm not going to say there won't be any problems. But even if problems arises because I have a service attitude, I know, okay, yeah, that's normal. There will be some snags because, you know, like technology, it's dull matter, you know. You have to tweak it. You have to adjust it. Nothing works right from the get-go. So have the right attitude, use it for service, and then also take time out where you just go, you totally detach. The time when you do your meditation, the time when you do your study, unless you're an emergency doctor and you're on call from the hospital, or you have to make sure that the systems don't go down, then you can actually fully detach, at least for certain periods of the day. Because if I'm not functional, then I'm no good to no one. A dear friend and mentor of mine was a paramedic on the San Francisco Fire Department for 23 years. Satyadev Prabhu is also initiating spiritual master. And he told me, lesson number 1 for paramedics, you have to come home alive, okay? So don't try to be the one who solves all the problems and fixes everyone's lives and fights all the battles. Because if you don't survive, there's going to be no one on the ambulance tomorrow to go out and save people. So as we're getting older, we have to learn to renegotiate our own commitments and also see our limitations. That yes, there is a problem, but I may not have what it takes to solve all the problems of the world. So have a little bit of humility. When one is younger, one thinks one can take on the universe, but then you realize, you know, me against the galaxy is a fight that no one can win. That maybe I should leave some of those battles to other people, that I have to just choose my battles, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing right now? So have a clear sense of priority. Like when you're dealing with your wife or with your children, don't bring the office and the job there, you know? Like, have a division of labor. Otherwise, you won't be that much appreciated because you'll be absent-minded.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes.
Thank you very much. After many years, in fact, almost all my life, I studied about technical skills and soft skills in order to overcome challenges in life. In the last year, I focused my attention on the vertical development. And in this vertical development paradigm and concept, there are also researchers. For example, there is a lady at Harvard University, Suzanne Kugreuter, developing a theory for this vertical development, and she is referring there to self-system development. And to the upper levels of self-systems development, there is the oneness, transcendence, and things similar to these definitions. For me, strangely enough, she calls this ego development theory, which ego in Western concepts, paradigms, is something not necessarily good, but she defines ego as being self-system. My question is how much these vertical development theories, even coming from Harvard, are related to Vedic philosophy, and if there is a relation, it is not, they are inspiring from this.
Thank you. I haven't studied vertical development theory, but I know that people who actually have done amazing things, most of them dropped out of those elite schools of Stanford and Harvard in order to go out into the real world and actually get something done. You know, like really do projects. There is a lot of talk and a lot of discussion and a lot of theories, because for some people theories is what they do. They come up with theories and they talk about theories and they defend theories. In fact, you can't get a PhD unless you come up with a new theory, with a new idea. You can't be a follower of someone else's idea. You have to be an innovator. So, that being said, at the end of the day, everybody cooks with water, you know, because all we can work with is what we've got. What is that? Earth, fire, water, air, and ether. Mind, intelligence, false ego, and soul. So the basic components are the same. No matter what fancy names we give them, no matter what theory or what, you know, ideology we put in, at the end of the day, it all pretty much boils down to the same thing. What's the operating system? Who is in control? What is the motive? What is the objective of the whole enterprise? Why do they do this? Is it part of an MBA program just to make more lemonade, just to get more out of people? You heard of capitalism? Yeah? Yeah, kind of, right? Why does my, you know, bottle of water all of a sudden cost 50 lei, you know? Like, it's kind of insane, right? But in some countries, it's like that. In some countries, beer is cheaper than water. Crazy, huh? Amazing. So, I wouldn't get stuck with the theory. I will get into the practice and ask, well, who has perfected this theory? Like, show me the positive outcome. Because you can judge a thing by its result, or you can talk theory for months and years on end. What is the positive result? What have they produced? I can show you a positive result from the Vedic paradigm of entire civilizations who have produced magnificent works in art and science and religion and medicine and monumental cultures. Whereas what happens in university, unfortunately, a lot of times is a lot of theory. And life is what happens when you're not in school. Like you have noticed that once you get to the job life, then it's like, hey, forget what they taught you in the classroom, you know, like new game here, okay? So get used to the idea, you know, like stuff moves in a different way. Not to discredit, because I haven't studied the theory, I'm just talking in principle scenario, all right? We had another hand?
Thank you.
So, do you hear me? Okay, good. So I have just one little remark, and after that I have a question related to the practice here. Since I do not know if I will have the chance to talk to you personally, I would like just to come in the defense of this public. So there's a different culture here, and we're not that noisy as the Americans. So you talked about Abhyasa and Vairagya. And just comparing the cultures, maybe it's just a label coming from your mind. So we're rather inclined to be more silent and contemplative. But anyway.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's why it was very refreshing to meet some normal people, as I call them, you know, who don't have to be loud or very expressive or dominant. They can just be. It's quite refreshing, actually.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you understand that, and
Yes.
don't take it as an offense.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
It was just to get some emotional response out of you.
I got it. Okay, and about the question, so you were talking about meditation with mantras.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know how you do it here. So the approach that I know is that you just sing or repeat a mantra, and then you focus on the inner subtle sound in the end, and then you get in the meditation. How do you do it here? How do you approach it actually, the mantra practice?
Thank you. There is different ways how to use mantra. One way we just heard before, that we're singing, is called kirtan, in a group. Another way is japa, that we do personal practice, which can be done on a rosary, on a set of beads, or you just chant the mantra for yourself. Another practice is silent practice, where we chant in the mind, but it's a little more advanced stage, because sometimes it's hard to keep a thought in your mind. Try it. Think of something and see how long you can think of it. Thank you for your honesty. It's not so easy, right? But it's a practice, and it can be learned through practice. It takes a little while to get into it. So these are the three main forms of how to practice. And it's good to have a daily regimen, like whether it be sports or art or study or spirituality, something that you do regularly. And in this way you build up a habit and you get into a certain routine. And then there are different stages, there are different things that are conducive, that help you, like to have a peer group. Like, for instance, if you were to be in academia or in sport or in business, you want to have a peer group. You want to have people who can tell you, oh, you're doing really great. No, that was not so great. Like, you know, this doesn't work here. There's a different type of public. So, by the way, thank you for your feedback. Very valuable assessment. And that's also my kind of baseline of what I realized this week, that it's really nice to see people who are just a little more authentic and not really showing off, because it's not what people expect, and it's not what people appreciate either. Whereas in other places there are other ways of how to live life. So The mantra works. It's been time and tested, and we can put it to our own trial by applying ourselves to a practice. And then we can say, okay, I mean, I've tried a few things in my life. Let's see, let's do it for 21 days and see how it works. What impact, what result do I get out of it? So this way we can actually experience a benefit. So to have a peer group who can give you an accurate type of assessment, because sometimes, most of the time, actually, let me rephrase that, all the time, I am not that objective. Have you noticed how the mind is very easy on justifying things and saying, no, it's okay, it's fine, I parked in the right place, and I didn't do this, and this wasn't my fault, and does your mind ever do that? No. Okay, it's just me. So then a peer group, then obviously the practice, and another thing is, what else we have? We need something that we do for others, selflessly. Not just me, because me and mine can get old really fast. So finding a service, something that we do just for the love of it, just something to help others, just something to contribute to the greater good. It's called seva. So we have sangha, sadhana, and seva. And there is ample of opportunity how to do good deeds. And it starts out with just showing appreciation, just showing kindness to people. Sometimes we're stuck in a rut and we think like, oh, my life is difficult and I'm having a hard time. So that's just the way how I go through life. But everyone is struggling on their own level. So if I can show some appreciation, some empathy to other people, that would actually help them. Try to do that on a regular basis, like appreciate 3 people a day. And I know most of us, we're trying to do that, but sometimes it just becomes a routine. It becomes something a little more casual or a little bit more just a social norm. Okay, we greet people, we say hello, how are you? But then, you ever noticed you tell somebody, how you really are, and then they just walk away, or they just don't have time or interest in dealing with the topic. So to go out of our way to go the extra mile, so to speak, to really be there for other people. And I have seen personally in my own short life that the more I have tried to do that, to be there for others, the more I felt empowered and the more I felt taken care of. I know it sounds weird. It sounds like, what? You're giving time and energy and you feel like you got more time and energy? Yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. Mathematically, it doesn't seem to make sense, right? But in reality, yes. Because we all have faced our own challenges in life. And sometimes it's just things that are not going away, or you can't really make the breakthrough. But when I change my mindset and I see more, okay, what's the lesson here? And how can I be of service? Then the paradigm shifts and the energy starts shifting and things start moving in the right kind of a direction. So my humble suggestion, work with the mantra, practice, and see how everything that we do is sound vibration. Like, you hear those people talking out there? They're pretty animated, right? What are they talking about? What are they worked up about, right? Sound is powerful. Do you know that the ear is the only organ that never sleeps? It's always awake. Always awake. So if we learn how to receive conscious sound vibration, especially mantras, that are related to spirituality, to God's names, then input versus output, then naturally what will come out of my mouth will also become influenced. Have you noticed sometimes you're surrounded by people and you pick up some information or some way of talking or some way of being? Just like I had to spend 6 years in California. And all of a sudden I start acting and talking and, doing stuff like Californians. Because otherwise you can't live there. Otherwise they think like, where did this guy come from, So you have to kind of blend in, right? Your environment just starts influencing you. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a not so good way. So you have to be able to recognize that. But when I daily spend quality time with the mantra, with Krishna's names, then we will see inevitably that there will be a different way of how we move in the world. Because our way of communicating, our way of analyzing, our way of carrying ourselves will be different. Try it out. And I know you already are, but it's something that we sometimes tend to do mechanically. But there is a verse in the Vedas that says, Shushu Shro Shradadhanasya Vasuteva Kataruchi Sanmahat Sevaviprat Punya Tirtani Sevana, that Shradadhanasya, that how should we hear? We should lean into it. We should put our heart into it. Like when you hear to somebody, when you listen to somebody, there's different types of listening. There's just superficial listening. Okay, I'm here. I noticed. I acknowledged. But empathic listening means you give your heart to it. You actually, empathy, like with passion. What is the passion of Christ? It's the suffering of Christ. It means you are willing to take on a little bit of the hardship of the other person that is trying to communicate something to you. And that will open up their heart. And then there will be that heart-to-heart connection. And then the magic can happen, even though it may oftentimes be unspoken or it will happen on a different level, but the magic will happen. So thank you for listening to me and giving me this opportunity to spend time with you. It's been refreshing to be around some normal people. And yeah, we had a good time. We also had a picnic yesterday. We had different people who cooked amazing things, and all of a sudden they brought me, bread and soup and cakes and fruits and whatnot. And it was amazing. So how long do you go normally? You got to tell me. I can tell you stories till the cows come home, but I know you got busy lives, so I don't want to patronize your precious time. If you have a last question or maybe a comment or reflection, yes.
Hello, sir. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this eye-opening lecture. You gave me a lot of ambition because you explained self-work and self-realization with such simplicity that it reached me and I finally understood it. Even if I read it about it, the way you put it in perspective really made me understood better on how I can improve myself. And that is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for you being here and coming here.
Thank you.
Today.
Somebody here who actually got a book this week? Did you get a book? We met, right? Yeah, I thought we met. Well, thanks for showing up. It was worth the trouble being out there. So there's some more fun things that are going to happen here. I don't know what we win yet, but what did we win? But I think she's going to tell us what we won. Free trips to India and, free healthcare and free university and free everything. Since we're not running for president, this is not a popularity contest. But again, I'd like to express my gratitude. And I can see that there's a lot of there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of potential here. It's a very interesting phase of the development. And especially the younger generations are very, very switched on. They're very open-minded. They're very energetic. And they're looking for opportunities. So it's up to us what we make of it. As we're moving through life, some of us are realizing that we're getting a little older. I know some of you are getting younger, but some of us are getting a little older. If you want to know that you're old or not, it's when you walk into a room and you look like, okay, where can I sit down? Where's my chair? That's an indicator. You're getting older, okay? All right? And yeah, so I would like to humbly encourage each and every one of us to spend a little time to listen to other people, especially the younger generations, because they have great ideas, and especially in regards to design, marketing, technology, and how to communicate a message. There has to be a positive tension between tradition and innovation, you know. It's not that one thing has got it all. Sometimes we think, yeah, we just got to do things the old way, you know. Keep the main thing is the main thing, and anyone who challenges that, we don't want to hear it. And innovation, where we have to change everything every day of the week, and it's got to be new and fresh, and we just throw everything out, you know, it's all bad what the other people did. No, there has to be a healthy coexistence between tradition and innovation. So I think that this place can be a very good role model of that. Srila Prabhupada, our founder, he said we should always think how to have unity in diversity, how to keep that positive tension, you know, going. And in this way, it will be a very fertile environment for great development. And I'm happy to see that you're actually very sincere, you know. You're putting in the effort, and that's not just a light thing, because living in a big bad city and having a job and a family and doing everything you need to do just to make it in the world, and then having a spiritual life, and then trying to be there for others, it seems like a lot. But if you want to get something done, you have to ask busy people. So that's why I'm talking to you. Because if you want to get something done, you don't talk to the guy who sits in the park, you know, with 3 cans of beer on his bench, but you talk to busy people. So that's why we're here, talking to you. So we value your time, your commitment, and I guarantee you, money-back guarantee from this seminar, that if you just remember these 3 things, I'm eternal, I'm wise, and I'm actually blissful, I'm actually happy. No one can touch you. And your quality of life will be at least 108% better than what it was before. And we hope to see you again sometime, Krishna willing, either here or in Mayapur or someplace. And I think it's time that we think of also how we can branch out. Of course, this is the capital, but there's so many great cities in this country, and there's a lot of scope. So if some of you feel adventurous, feel free to volunteer. There are opportunities to use your talent, to use our ambition, to use our creativity. And it all will transpire by the blessings of our teachers, of our mentors, and of our guides. So I'm very happy to see how you're having a very healthy, constructive environment here. So thanks for being team players. And yeah, let's see what the miracle will be, how it will manifest. That's the exciting thing that we're all working on. And I was a young kid. I was 15 years old. I was going to a boarding school in the Swiss Alps. I was mainly into sports and reading a lot of books. So I had 3 desires. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to have a lot of friends. I wanted to become the best at what I do. Sounds like a little ambitious, but that's how you are when you're 15. And this mantra, this chanting, has not just met, but it has exceeded and surpassed all my wildest dreams. So feel free to experiment with the mantra and teach it to some other people that you feel could use a little bit of help. And feel free to listen to them, because it's a dialogue. The more we listen, the more people want to hear what we have to share. And we'll be here for some time more. We can have a little more discussion if you have something you wanted to share with me or something you wanted to ask me in person. So we'll be here for a little while longer. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.
We'll have a 15 minutes kirtan, but before that, I would like to express my gratitude to Navina Nirada Prabhu for his wonderful class.